Don't just take my word for it. Even the players are saying things are different.
In the world full of podcasts, he's the undisputed heavyweight champion of hot takes, an Auburn sports homer, master of the boog, and message board legend. Get your buttons buttoned and your hats flattened because the Top Button Podcast is about to kick off. And you don't want to miss your courtside seat. Now, here's your host, Charlie 5.
And so we're back. It's another episode of the Top Button Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Rush, a.k.a. Charlie 5, and we are ready to get after it. Don't take my word for it. We talked about being at the first day of practice, how things look different. Don't just take my word for it. Current players are even saying things feel different. We're going to talk about the different ways things feel different. Is there a new edge target on the board possibly coming in? We'll talk about that as well. We'll look at Auburn's NIT matchup. And then something that happened last night that is starting to really make waves, and people are starting to get in kind of Auburn's corner as far as being, kind of shafted as far as left out of the tournament. We'll talk about all that today. Let's jump right into it, though. Look, you heard me say it. You've heard Zach say it. Anybody you listen to a podcast as far as Auburn goes that talked about practice on Tuesday, talked about how it just felt different. Like you couldn't really put it into words. It just felt different. And it's one thing to hear it from us. It's another thing to hear it from players. I want to play a quick clip, from Xavier Atkins and break it down because there's two aspects of it in particular that I want to talk about.
It's different. Like, obviously, I could tell the music, when y'all first got in here, So it's different. Like, it's just like more – it's more structure at leadership. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's not like where they acting like they demanding greatness. Like, they demanding like where you going to show up and do your job every day. And that's the type of stuff that we need as a team. Like, we shouldn't have to – like, last year we shouldn't have to feel like, oh, we can just walk in here and just – no, like, you got to come do your job every day and prove yourself. Like, nobody's job is, like, guaranteed. So that's the biggest thing he emphasizing, like, the first practice. Like, we'll make sure we compete every day at the right level. All right, no problem.
So the biggest thing right there, right off the bat, when he said there's more structure and more leadership. Guys, I think we all, at least some of us, went to college, and we all remember the first day of class. What was the first day of class? What did they call it? They called it syllabus day. You go in, and on the first day of class, you go in and you learn about what you're going to be doing throughout the semester. You don't necessarily do anything. You don't get anything done. You just kind of go through the structure of everything that you're going to see in that class for that particular semester. And this is the first practice of spring. And guys, I'm not exaggerating when I say this. It felt like a week 5 practice in season. There was no, this is how we're going to do things. There was no, this is explaining how we execute drills. There was no anything. They came in, they knew what they were going to do. Syllabus day. Everybody's remembering syllabus day. That was great. That was a great day. You just went in, got the syllabus, and went home. You knew what you were going to do. You knew what the expectations were. And all your job was to go out and do the things that you were asked to do at an elite level. I remember last year several times when I felt like there's too much standing around, particularly on offense. Defense, I know Xavier Atkins is a defensive guy. Defense, it felt like, was much more structured always. It was always bam, 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 always somebody doing something. But offense, I always felt like I would be talking to guys, we'd be watching practice like, man, there's so much standing around. There's so much talking. There's so much – this and that. And it's like, this is individual drills time. Like, you should already know what your drills are. You should already know what the expectations are. And you're going through them. You're repping, you're working, you're getting after it. There was none of that. There was none of that. It was clearly they knew exactly what they were supposed to be doing at what point in time. every single minute that we saw while we were out there. That's different right there. Now, does that equate to wins? That will be the question down the road. Okay? But from what we saw, there is a marked difference between last year and this year as far as a structure standpoint. And then obviously he talked about the music and the energy. It did feel like the energy was up. I know people mocked and talked about the music that was played last year. Love, praise, and worship. I just don't know that it's supposed to be, amping up guys to go play football when you're going to go try to knock each other's head off. So the music obviously got the energy level up. It was the first day of practice, so there's some of that as well. What is that like on practice 2, 3, and 4 through the rest of spring? We'll see. I see people asking some questions. How do people compare the size of this team in last year? I talked about the wide receiver room. I think you could line the wide receiver room up, take the numbers off, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So they look good from a size standpoint. And then the second thing Xavier Atkins talked about, and I think this is Golesh's philosophy, and it's cool to see the philosophy sort of working its way into the leadership on the team to where that's at the top of their mind when they're asked these questions. And it's the difference between being great and being elite, and being asked to be great or elite, or being demanded to be elite. You hear all of them say the word elite a lot. The difference between being asked to be elite and the difference between demanding to be elite. And I'm going to give you a good example. I'm not going to call the player out, but it was one of the very first drills of the day. I was locked into the wide receivers. Just a little comeback route. Wide receiver caught it, went to tuck it away, and lost control of the ball. Lost focus, lost control of the ball. And Golesh, who was hopping around to all the different position groups, just seemed to appear out of nowhere. Just seemed to appear and went up to him, and he said something to the tune of, I care less about the drop and I care more about the body language. Got to be elite. I care about the body language after it. In other words, don't drop your head. Don't sulk. Pick the ball up. Do your punishment. Do your push-ups, whatever it is. Get back in line and do it again. So he identified that from – it felt like he was across the other side of the facility. He said, I don't necessarily care so much essentially about dropping the ball. It's the body language after the fact. Here's another thing. They're redoing the media room, right? They're redoing the media room where you do interviews and things like that inside the football facility, which is wild because the building's only, 3 years old? And they're turning it into a cafeteria. Now, full disclosure, this apparently was on the plans before Golesh was here. But what Golesh did institute is we're eating 3 meals a day. We're serving 3 meals a day when this thing's done in the facility. My players, I'm going to know what's going into my player's body, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We have hydration plans. In other words, we're going to know when you're hydrating. We got a plan for keeping your body performing at an elite level. Everything from structure to leadership to being elite, they've got a plan for. From when you walk into the building to when you lay your head down at night. It's just different. It's just different. There could be a new target on the board as far as outside linebacker goes. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But before we do that, let's give a quick shout out to Scarlet Oak Roofing and Renovations. There was some bad weather, man, these last couple of weeks, especially if in East Alabama. Had some hail a couple of weeks ago, had some bad storms this past weekend. If you have any damage, you have any suspected damage, you want a free inspection, and you live in the East Alabama, Columbus, Georgia area, give Preston a shout, 770-530-7738. They can handle all the insurance claims. They got insurance professionals. Why not? If you got a roof over 10 years old, you might as well take advantage of a free inspection. And then also we want to give a shout out to Roback.com. Can't wait to get my Roback order. Should be coming in any day now. And I'll be sharing it with you guys. Use coupon code BARN20 to take 20% off your order. Polos, pullovers, hoodies, all of that. They got it. Even have Auburn licensed apparel as well. So show them some love. It's Roback.com. We'll be back right after this. All right, let's talk portal. Hey, believe it or not, we still got some daggum portal stuff to talk about, some portal chatter, okay? And this is kind of a unique story, but Auburn has a visitor lined up for next Saturday, the 28th. And I can't tell, I'm not sure if it's Cameron or Kamaran Morgan. He's a outside linebacker from Baylor, okay? So here's the story with him. He's a freshman. He's got 3 years left to play. He played 10 games last year, okay? Played 10 games last year, had, over 125 snaps or something like that. Saw 125 snaps, 67 snaps in pass rush scenarios, 6 tackles in a hurry. Didn't just light the world on fire, but he's a true freshman. In other words, he got game experience last year. He goes into the portal, and there's some issue around his academic eligibility because he actually committed to Virginia Tech, and something about some transcripts or whatever with Baylor basically made it to where he couldn't transfer to Virginia Tech. He appealed that and won. So instead of just going to Virginia Tech, he's like, well, I'm back in the portal now. It could be that Virginia Tech filled that spot. Could be a lot of different things, okay? Also, he's now the best available player in the portal. So that changes things too. When you're in the mix with everybody else, your value is one thing, okay? And now when that little mishap goes through and you become the best available player, your value is another thing, okay? So I'm going to open it up now and see what's out there. Auburn's got him set for a visit on the 28th. I think he may be going to Mississippi State the week after. But you're talking another edge, 6'5", 251 pounds from Texas. He's got 3 years to play, and he's got college experience. I talked about the edge room last week. I think it's the most up for grabs. I really do. I believe it's the most up for grabs position on the team because you've got a ton of potential. You don't really have a lot of proven production. And Cameron or Kamaran's going to fit right into the potential scenario. Hey, you got Jared Smith, 6'6", 260. You got Deshaun Spencer, 6'5", 245, 250 pounds. And then you throw Kamaran in there at 6'5", 250. Man, that's a lot of length coming off the edge right there. A lot of good competition. So really like the opportunity that you could add this guy into the room. He was a 4-star coming out of high school too. So, he was one of the top players in the state of Texas, 4-star across the board consensus. So good pedigree in high school, got on the field as a true freshman, and he's going to possibly come in with 3 years to play. And unlike high school, Auburn's getting the first visit. So the only thing that's going to be, I would assume he won't be able to enroll until June. So he may not even be here for all of spring. So he would have some catching up to do. But hey, who cares? Get the competition, get the dudes in the room, and let's get after it. What are y'all's thoughts on Cameron Morgan coming to Auburn? It'd be pretty sick. To add that into the room. All right, let's talk about basketball for a second and close this thing up. So, Cheese, have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm kidding. Before I go into the NIT matchup, before I jump into the NIT matchup, I got to talk about what happened last night from two angles. Miami of Ohio played SMU, and they pretty much lit SMU up. Miami of Ohio lit SMU up, and a lot of Auburn fans were like, "Oh man, we would have got dominated. We didn't deserve to be in. Look, Miami of Ohio was better, blah, 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 blah. And then, people pointed to Bruce Pearl and say, ha ha, Bruce Pearl, see, Miami of Ohio won their playing game. Like, I don't know how does that prove anything? I don't know. They won a playing game. Cool. The big storyline, though, is around SMU because SMU's best player, BJ Edwards, one of their best players, really good guard, one of their leading scorers, he got injured somewhere around like the 5th or 6th with 5 or 6 games left, okay? He got injured, and they lost 5 out of those 6 games coming down the stretch. Remember, Auburn got a lot of grief for the way they ended the season. SMU had a really bad end of the season as well. But this is the key, okay? This is the key. SMU came out and said that BJ Edwards was going to be available for the NCAA tournament. They put that statement out there, and then the selection committee said that return weighed into their decision. Remember what happened with Florida State and them being left out of the playoffs at like 1,000,000-0. Like they just beat everybody. But their quarterback was injured, and their quarterback got injured really late in the season. And the one game that they played without him, it was a completely different team. So the selection committee said, we don't think that's the same team that won the 12 or 13 games prior, so we can't put them in the playoff, okay? Well, this is a similar situation, but in reverse, because SMU essentially lied so that it wouldn't penalize them, because the committee was going to make sure that if BJ Edwards was back, then it's a different team. It's more like the earlier SMU before these last 6 games, so we're going to put him in. And then obviously he doesn't play. It's a big stink, and they got completely dominated last night. So, for Auburn fans that feel like you got shafted and or feel like you had a better argument, you were ahead of SMU in every metric. You had more big wins. You had the exact same end to the season, basically, that they had. So you stack the resumes up against each other. There's really no comparison other than wins and losses, which is stupid because SMU just played a bunch of scrubs. Okay? If you feel that feeling of, if you feel like you got shafted, we probably did. So there's that. Now, let's switch gears. NIT, it was announced on Sunday. We will play at 5:30 Central Standard Time. We will have a barncast. It will be elite, just like it was on whenever we played. What was it, Tuesday? That was the best barncast we've ever had. It was better than both Alabama games from a viewership perspective, which is hilarious. The NIT first round. Any game that we had this year, that one was the best. So you guys like it, so we're going to keep doing it. So Sunday, be prepared to lock in. When you're talking about Seattle, look, nothing just jumps off the page as far as anything that's super scary. They do have a 7-footer, but he only plays about 18 minutes a game. He's a young center. He's 18, plays 18 minutes a game, scores 7 points a game, 4-5 rebounds. Their best scorer is a pretty good three-point shooter, though. Braden Maldonado, he's their point guard. He's their go-to guy. So Auburn's going to have to defend all the way out to the three-point line on him. And then they have 2 bigger forwards, and they're more old-school score inside kind of guys, 6'7", 6'8". So that could pose maybe some problems for Auburn. Not necessarily that we don't have anybody that can match up, but just because you got 2 of those guys and they're like carbon copies of each other, and they both kind of have the same game, and they play on the court at the same time, and they play 30-plus minutes a game. So those 3 guys, Braden Maldonado, Will Heinbrodt, and then Jung Seok Yeo. I think I've said that right. Don't sue me. We're just calling him JY. JY is the other one, and they're basically twins as far as size goes, points, minutes, everything. So it'd be fun to kind of keep this run going. I mean, if you feel like you got left out, you feel like you got shafted, well, I'll tell you what, go make a statement. Go win this thing. You got to win on Tuesday. Keep the momentum going, and we'll have some fun. People asking about Opurum. Look, he's got a medical condition. I don't know that I don't know that he's ever going to play basketball again. I'm not saying that as inside information, but there doesn't seem to be just all this confidence that he's going to be somebody that comes back. So you may be going into the portal and looking for a bunch of bigs, a whole new set of them. So we'll see how that plays out. The good news is that the portal opens after the tournament, so you can handle your business in the NIT and then shift your focus. You can do both. You can be working on it right now, and then when you're ready to go, once the tournament's over and you're ready to go build the roster for next year. So, guys, I really appreciate you listening. Great show, great audience, great chat, a lot of fun. We're going to be doing this every single day forever. As long as I'm here, we're going to be live, and I'm available. Like, for example, tomorrow, got to go, got a family, had a death in the family. We're going to go show some love there and be with everybody. So tomorrow's show won't be live, but it'll be premiere, so you can still jump in the chat. And we'll talk about – I'm curious to watch the Pate State interview with Golesh. I'm sure there's going to be some good stuff to take away there. So, we'll be back tomorrow. Guys, thanks for listening. We'll be back again. We'll talk soon. It's another episode of the Top Button Podcast. Stay buttoned.
Thanks for listening, and drive home safely.